Good evening, everyone. This is Nicole Johnson Starr with the PTSD Retreat Radio Talk Show. It is Friday night. Woohoo! I get to admit that I'm very, very happy it's Friday. But it's been one of those long weeks. But today we're continuing part one, taste and food, for the six senses of PTSD. And so right now, during this segment, all we're going to have is we're just going to have Pam Killeen during this segment, because as you guys have heard before, there's two different frames of thought between Pam and Urian. Even though both of them back themselves up and each other up so very well, I thought it might be a good idea just to have Pam be able to present hers, and then in the next segment, we're going to have Urian doing the same thing. So you actually hear both of their thoughts and how to approach biochemistry, health, and food, and all this other stuff as far as your body is concerned and what you're putting in there and how it affects PTSD. So, Pam, you there?
I sure am.
Okay, welcome back. Hi. And thank you so much for being here tonight. And I'm going to let you just, you've given us a basis, a little bit of basis. I think it's almost like, saying you've hit the tip of the iceberg as far as biochemistry is concerned. But tonight, I would love for you to go in depth and just pour it out. It's all you.
Let me do my best, because what I do is very new. So Urian doesn't know what I do. And what I do is biochemistry. It's measurable. I can test it. I can watch and monitor biochemistry as it changes. It's a very, very new science. What I do is called nutritional balancing, or what I like to call biochemical restoration. And it has its basis in the work of people like Urian Plessman, Dr. Abel Hopper, Roger Williams, Carl Pfeiffer, and so many giants in the field of nutritional medicine. The work I do is based on the work of a biochemist who was known as a copper expert. He was an expert in the area of copper and copper toxicity. So it's a very unique system that I have fortunately been able to find, but it's not very well known. And there's a few reasons why, and one of it is because it's a relatively new system. It started evolving in the 1970s, 1980s, so it's a really very new system. But the other thing that doesn't make it very popular is that it's not very expensive to do, so a clinician can't make a lot of money doing what I do, because I'm working with people, keep in mind, who are on disability, who don't have money, and you know what, they deserve to get well. So my program is not expensive. It's very affordable, but it's a 2-year commitment, because it takes 2 years, at least, in some cases, depends on the individual, but it can take on average 2 years for somebody to get well. Now, the span of time that it takes for somebody to work with me is going to vary from one person to the other, depending upon these variables. Number one, the age of the individual before they start working with me. Number two, how sick they are before they start working with me. It depends on also whether or not they've ever been a vegetarian. Anybody who's worked with me who was ever a vegetarian, they tend to take longer to get better. And finally, it really depends on how compliant they are on the program as well. So I'm very demanding. I tell people that on a scale of 1 to 10, my program is a 10 in terms of its degree of difficulty. And what makes it so unique is that, number one, my program works. I get to see people recover from very, very disabling conditions, everything from bipolar, disabling, depression, fatigue, anxiety, you name it. Even PTSD. I get to see people who can recover from very debilitating conditions like PTSD. But it's a very demanding program. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10 in terms of its degree of difficulty. It's not easy to do my program. It's a 5-prong approach. And only one of the prongs includes the testing that I do to check for the biochemistry of the individual. And what I do is through the testing, I know what supplements are necessary. I don't have to guess if somebody needs zinc, or if somebody can handle copper, or if somebody needs other nutrients, if somebody can handle, for example, a B complex. Not everybody can handle a B complex. It really depends biochemically on where their sodium is, for example. So not everybody can handle a B complex. I have to check their biochemistry first to see what nutrients their body needs. So I'm really fortunate to have this system, because I don't have to guess, what nutrients are going to be in the protocol. So it's a minimalistic approach that I use, simply because I'm precise precise in what nutrients are necessary. This program is a less is more approach. The fewer the supplements people take, the better the results they're going to get. The more supplements somebody takes, the more the risk is that you're going to potentially throw off your biochemistry. So I'm fortunate I don't have to use a lot of supplements to get somebody back running on all 8 cylinders, but that's only one prong in the program, along with the testing. The second prong in the program that I do includes resting. People must rest. They are not allowed to do aerobic activities, so they can't jog, they can't do laps in a pool, they're not allowed to cycle, they're not allowed to do strenuous activity. They must rest. So I tell my clients that they are to imagine that their adrenal glands are in a cast that is like your arm or your leg, and you've got to put one of these body parts in a cast. That's what I'm asking my clients to do, is to imagine that their adrenal glands are broken and they must rest in order to heal. So that's another prong of the program. The third prong of the program is going to be eating 3 square meals a day, the way we used to eat, say for example, before World War II, when we sat down and religiously ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and these were 3 homemade meals. And before World War II, we didn't suffer from red meat phobia, bacon phobia, egg phobia, butter phobia, dairy phobia, liver phobia. We didn't have any of these food phobias before World War II, and we were much healthier, both physically and mentally. These foods are very, very stabilizing for your nervous system. So I want people to eat these foods inclusive at some point in the day in their diet, breakfast, lunch, and or dinner. They must have enough animal fat in the diet. That means to stabilize the nervous system. Certainly people who are of European descent should be getting about 70% of their calories from animal fat. And I have to use a lot of education to get people over fat phobia and cholesterol phobia, because that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much mental instability today, is because people are simply not eating enough animal fat, and by default, of course, dietary cholesterol. These foods never joined the dark side. They've always been an important part of the human diet. So 3 square meals is the third prong of my program. The fourth prong of my program is to do the near-infrared sauna therapy. It's not a far infrared sauna. It's not a dry sauna. It's not a steam sauna. It must be the near-infrared sauna. So I send my clients plans so that they can build it themselves. And in fact, one of my clients who has PTSD is on disability. She doesn't have much money. She's very resourceful. She couldn't wait to start the program. She wasn't going to have any hurdles in the way. She actually built the sauna for $10. So it's
No way!
Yeah, she's very resourceful, very driven. She's one of my top clients. Has come from the most trauma I have ever seen in my life. This woman came from torture. It's unspeakable what she's been through. She might even be listening right now, I don't know, but at any rate, she's come a long way in the last year, and I'm so proud of this girl. But she's been one of my most compliant clients, and there was nothing that was going to stop her from doing the entire program. So she only spent $10 on the sauna. She put it together herself. I've had other clients put the sauna together for $30, $40. It's not an expensive unit at home. All you need is a closet. And that's your enclosure. And if I work with somebody who is struggling with claustrophobia, they can do it in an open room. That's fine. I just want them to have these bulbs that are a part of the sauna. I just want them to have the bulbs on their, especially their core or their lower back, to help support the elimination, the detoxification process. Okay, so the near-infrared sauna is part of the program. And then finally, the fifth prong of the program is going to be the coffee enemas. And the coffee enemas are one of the best tools one can use to feel better emotionally and mentally very quickly.
Okay, hold on a second. What is a coffee enema? Because I'm thinking coffee and I'm going rear ends and coffee. What?
Exactly. So essentially, what it entails is, by using an enema bag, you're going to insert about 2 cups of coffee in your butt, and you're going to soak. So you're going to lie down on a comfortable spot, perhaps even in the bathtub. A lot of people, what they do is to stay comfortable. They're lying in the tub with a shallow layer of potentially hot or warm water to keep them warm, because you want to be relaxed while you're soaking the coffee in what's known as the descending colon. It's in that area of the colon where you have something called the portal vein, and that's essentially an area that is going to be triggered by the chemicals in the coffee to stimulate bile. the exit routes for the heavy metals, the excess metals that must come out, that are interfering with neurotransmission in the brain, that are interfering with your hormones. They're going to interfere with your mood. And so when people have a really good, purge with the coffee enema, they usually report back to me almost immediately that their mood improves. And I'm talking about people who have debilitating depression and anxiety, things like that, that the coffee enema can have in some individuals dramatic results, cause and effect immediately after. Now, and it's interesting because it was really soldiers that found out about the benefits of coffee enemas. I think it was in World War I or World War II where they didn't have water to do their enemas, and so they were using leftover coffee to do their enemas, and the soldiers found out that the coffee triggered a reaction in terms of having a really good purge, and immediately after the purge, whatever pain that they had would disappear, that it was a really good analgesic, essentially, painkiller. So coffee enemas were really popularized by the soldiers.
I'm actually really, really shocked to hear about that because I can't tell you how many are anal phobic. So I'm just, wow.
When I'm taking on a new client, I tell them the 5 prompts, and by the time I say the coffee enema, I figure, you know what, they're done. They're not going to do my. And I won't take clients who won't do coffee enemas. I just won't, because number one, they work so well, and my clients who do the coffee enemas or the saunas tend to get better much, much faster. Secondarily, when we stir up the hornet's nest, and we're using very, very specific supplements to stir up the metals, all I'm really doing is moving the minerals into the correct ratios. I'm using healthy minerals in the correct ratios to displace the toxic or excess metals in the body. So I'm stirring up a hornet's nest by using these targeted supplements. And when this hornet's nest is released, that's all well and good that we can do that, but the metals have to find a way out. So you're not serving yourself by just stirring up the metals, because it feels horrible once you stir up that hornet's nest. You're going to have debilitating headaches, nausea. You're going to have a host of detoxification reactions, and believe me, when they happen, you're going to regret not doing coffee enemas in the saunas. So those are there for your benefit. They're there to make sure you have a soft landing when you're getting rid of these metals. Usually what happens is when people get used to doing the coffee enemas, they say to me, Pam, I wish I knew about these coffee enemas 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. They feel so much better when they do the coffee enemas. But you're essentially inserting 2 cups of coffee into the descending colon. You're letting it sit there for about 15 minutes. And again, this requires some coaching. I'm oversimplifying something in case people have difficulty doing the coffee enemas. Sometimes it does require some coaching because everybody has a different experience. But essentially, when you put the 2 cups of coffee into the descending colon through the enema bag, after about 15 minutes, you should start hearing a gurgling, a trickling sound under your rib cage. You then feel usually a cramping sensation, and then you have what I always call the urge to purge. So you have to jump into the toilet and do what you need to do. And usually after a good purge, people feel dramatically better. And when the detoxification is occurring and the depression, fatigue, brain fog becomes extremely debilitating, in many cases my clients do more than 1 coffee enema a day.
Wow.
But I can't do what I do without these very specialized targeted supplements. The biochemist who developed this program, Urian doesn't know Dr. Eck. Very few people know Dr. Eck. What I do is so incredibly difficult to explain because I'm talking about sodium and potassium ratio levels, calcium magnesium ratio levels. If somebody if I get a test result back and somebody has low zinc, it doesn't mean that they need zinc, you see. And it has to do with something called the mineral wheel. If you look up the mineral wheel on the internet, you'll see.
I did actually look at that.
There's a tremendous amount of relationships going on between minerals. And if people don't know these relationships, they can potentially cause a very negative domino effect in the body. And I see this very commonly when people are taking magnesium, for example. I see this very commonly that they end up having a lot of anxiety, for example. And magnesium is going to have other relationships with other minerals in the body, like potassium, for example. And it could compromise the level of potassium as people are unconsciously the minerals. Same thing with zinc. Zinc, taking it alone, it could potentially interfere with your body's manganese. Now I know people think minerals are invisible. They're tasteless. They don't have an odor necessarily. People don't understand the power of minerals, and they're your spark plugs. So when the minerals are out of balance, enzymes aren't going to work properly. Transmitters are not going to work properly. Hormones are not going to work properly. These are very, very powerful light switches, triggers in your body, and people take them for granted. You can't just take magnesium. You can't just take zinc. It's really going to give very limited benefits to the body. And some people might feel better for a little while taking a mineral, but in the long run, it's very difficult to use minerals and guess which minerals you need and expect to get back running on all 8 cylinders. That's the trick. I like it when people can get from 1 cylinder to 2 cylinders. I think that's fantastic. That's 100% better. But I'm not satisfied getting people running from 1 cylinder to 2 cylinders. I want people running on all 8 cylinders. And we know through the work of people like Dr. Weston A. Price, Dr. William Stephenson, Sir Robert McCarrison, these are giants in terms of explorers who studied primitive cultures. And these researchers essentially showed us that it's very obtainable, that it's normal for humans to be healthy, both mentally and physically. When they looked at primitive cultures, these primitive cultures were radiantly healthy, and we're happy, and we're balanced. And then when we see our society today in this fast new world, where we're eating a diet that is diametrically opposed to our ancestral diet. I mean, it was before World War II when we got about 70% of our calories from animal fat, and that's based on history, that's based on evolution, that's, we knew to eat a lot of animal fat in our diet. We did it through wisdom. But it was after World War II where we started to see the rise of the demonization of these wonderful traditional foods. And since the misinformation, this dietary misinformation became very pervasive, this is why we see so much mental and physical instability in society today. Make no mistake, if you follow a lot of the information coming out of the Weston A. Price website, the books that are related to the work of Dr. Weston A. Price, you'll start to see a very clear pattern. Nothing in what I am saying is rocket science. It's not very complicated, but what becomes complicated is the nutritional misinformation. The key thing is that most of the nutritional information we're getting today is based on what I call marketing-based science. It's also based on dogma, and it's based on urban myth. That's much of the nutritional information that we're getting today. Industry-related information to serve a certain industry. And a lot of the information we're getting is called negative nutrition. So you'll see the demonization of one food, and the reason why it's there is because the industry is trying to bring up the sales of another product. This has been going on for centuries. It's nothing new. It's just incredibly sophisticated propaganda. And we see it, for example, in the political realm, when you see one politician demonize the other politician, and it's to gain the vote. So you have to be very sensitive to this phenomenon, this marketing phenomenon in the food industry called negative nutrition. And it's this kind of information that's actually making most of us sick. And so the fiber myth is a very common one, and it's a very easy one to believe. People believe that a lot of fiber is good in the diet, for example, and I really highly recommend the book The Fiber Menace. And I believed it. I used to take a lot of fiber. I used to eat a lot of fiber-rich foods, thinking it was good for the intestines. But back then I didn't understand the importance of bile production and how bile is necessary to create peristalsis in order to have good elimination. I didn't know that. Very few people know that. But a lot of people think fiber is important and that it's really good for creating good bowel movements. But if you look at, if you do a lot of digging, you'll find out that it's not true, that fiber indeed is very hard on the intestinal tract. And it makes sense because when we evolved, the last ice age, for example, ended 12,500 years ago, and we couldn't have had a lot of plant-based foods in our diet, meaning we couldn't have had a lot of carbohydrates or fiber in our diet. So we evolved mainly on animal foods. And back during the last ice age, of course, there wouldn't have been greenhouse trees, of course, that's when we first started doing it. There was a dramatic shift right away. So we start to see that humans shrunk about 6 inches, that our brain size decreased by about 10%. We start to see our lifespans decrease from 26 years to 19 years. And we start to see things like osteoporosis, anemia, infectious diseases, tooth decay, all sorts of signs of physical degenerations occurring at the invention of agriculture. These were not visible in our more primitive hunter-gatherer ancestors. But then when we fast forward from the invention of agriculture to the Industrial Revolution, and you see the invention of the steel mill in the early 1800s, you see the invention of the canning industry in the mid-1800s. The junk food industry started increasing in the late 1800s with everything from Cracker Jack to Coke, Pepsi. And then in 1909, you see the invention of hydrogenation and the rise of things like margarine in the marketplace. And then
I am very much so here, thank you. No, I'm.
anyway, the program that I do, what I can tell people is that as people start balancing their minerals, as their adrenal glands start getting stronger, and the emotions, the mental state are going to change. And in many cases, when the metals start stirring up, it's true that people could feel more depression and more fatigue, more brain fog. But at least with the couple and the saunas, that can give people a soft landing.
Well, obviously, there's a lot. There's a lot more to this than even what you're just giving to me right now. So I'm floored at just how much is involved. And I get to tell you, I was shocked when you said,
I see that Nicole's trying to reach me here.
uh oh.
She must be away from the microphone.
No, can you not hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Everybody else heard you. Sorry, my fault. Um,
I was worried about you.
no, I was here. I was here. I was actually speaking. The audience heard me, but she didn't. So please forgive me. Um, I was actually saying that there's so much more in this that's involved. Now, just so you know, I'm doing research into this because I really want to get. I want my body to be fully healthy, and even with what I have been doing, and what my husband and I did. By the way, we went back on our regular diet just to see how it would affect us. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My whole body just said, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And I've had memory issues since going back onto my regular diet. My mood. Oh, I can't. We won't even go there because my husband would be like, "No, she's not even telling you the full truth," because my mood has changed. Even just,
The thing is that when people start eating a traditional foods diet, they can have, can be a little uncomfortable at first because essentially the digestive system has forgotten to break down these foods, right?
mm-hmm.
It can be uncomfortable, especially where the digestion is concerned. Whether you feel the symptoms or you don't feel the symptoms, Mother Nature played a very bad trick on us by not giving us enough symptoms in the GI tract, you see. So, just biochemically speaking, when people have red meat phobia, for example, or animal food phobia, but red meat phobia in particular, they're not going to get enough zinc in the diet. And so when zinc goes down, copper is going to go up and cause all sorts of mood and mental issues. But without the zinc being where it needs to be, you're not going to produce enough
So we're seeing a whole assembly line of effects.
Right. And see, what most people in the natural health community don't know is that they believe people are different metabolic types. This is the work of Roger Williams. And you hear this term biochemical individuality. You hear this term being thrown around all the time in the natural health community. But what is going on actually is that when we get sick, our biochemistry changes.
Hmm.
And this doesn't mean it's healthy at all or normal. We're supposed to be more or less the same biochemistry. But when somebody's biochemistry is weak, then they're going to manifest different symptoms. You see?
Mm-hmm.
But whether I work with somebody and there's different oxidation rates, for example, you have a fast oxidizer, you have a slow oxidizer, you have mixed oxidizers, right? There's all sorts of different patterns that I can see in somebody's biochemistry. When I get somebody's baseline biochemistry, use the appropriate supplements to move their biochemistry into a healthy profile, then all of our, all the healthy people, our profiles should look the same. We should all have the same biochemistry.
Hmm.
When you have people who think that they're a protein type, carb type, mixed type, you hear these terms in the natural health world, what they're really saying is one person has weaker digestion than the next. See? So they can handle some foods, but they can't handle other foods, right? And then you have these people who have extremely weak adrenal glands, and they can't stop eating carbs.
Okay, I can't help but tell you that just listening to this, I am getting confused. I mean, I'm sitting here going, so how? What is the person supposed to do? What are they? How are they supposed to find out who's telling the truth?
Well, I mean, by the time people land on my doorstep, they've usually tried every system out there.
Mm-hmm.
They've tried and failed at using different hair analysis labs. They've tried and failed at using, different testing. $500, $1,000, $2,000, $4,000 they've spent on their health, and they don't seem to get anywhere. And then they come to me, and I get to see them get well. And they don't have to spend a lot of money, which is great. But it's just a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
The key thing is that people have to do what I've had to do. I had to learn the hard way. I had to spend years and years of my life trying so many things that I failed at. So many things that promised me that they would get me well and didn't get me well.
Mm-hmm.
So years and years of my life I had to spend spinning my wheels and trying all these different systems. Trying functional medicine, orthomolecular medicine. I have no problem with these fields of nutritional medicine. I think they're important, and I think that they contributed a lot to what I know today. But I just happened to find a needle in a haystack when I found the program that I use. It's just not very popular because practitioners can't make a lot of money doing what I do. And my goal is to get people off supplements, so essentially I'm the enemy of the natural health community.
And quite frankly, I'm sitting here and I'm very open-minded, and even I'm going, you want me to do what with my rear end? I'm not sure I feel good about that. And the funny thing is, I say that as a very open-minded individual. I mean, I'm willing to try anything once, but that one right there, I'm going,
I know.
exit only.
It's a deal breaker for me too because I won't work with people who don't do the coffee enemas, and it's because I know what's going to happen when that hornet's nest is stirred up. Number one, and number two, it's because I want people better yesterday, and I know how quickly the coffee enemas work. But I'll have
It's definitely a trust issue.
surprised. I have clients, for example, retired engineers, who have Parkinson's disease, and I think to myself, are these guys going to listen to me? Are they going to run and hide when I say the word coffee enema? And you know what? They don't even blink. They don't even blink.
Because by that time, they just want to be healed.
Parkinson's disease, they know. They don't want people deteriorating.
Mm-hmm.
They're already open-minded and very, very determined to get well, but they also have tried every remedy out there in the books. I mean, they have tried every remedy approach out there, and nothing is working for them, you see. So by the time I tell them my 5 prongs, they're like, okay, Pam, that makes sense, no problem.
Whatever you want.
I'm on your page. So, it's when people decide that they won't do the coffee enemas, those are the people that I'm going to have the most problem with, or the people who don't do the saunas. I'm going to have the most problems with people who decide that they can get lax in doing either one of those two modalities. And it's just because I see one test to the next, when
Mm-hmm.
when the metals decide to come out, we don't have exit routes. If you don't have exit routes for these metals, you're not going to win. You're really not going to win.
And you're not going to feel good. You know, when you put it that way, I can just be uncomfortable and be okay with it. You know, I can move forward. And
People, it's a cause, it's a reward thing. They do the coffee enema and they do feel better, usually right after. The occasional person is having, will have some difficulty. I mean, I'm not saying everybody posts on the coffee enemas. It can take some trial and error. There's no question about it. But for most people, they tend to get it down pat within 1, 2, 3 sessions.
wow. Uh, I will say this. I am very, very much wanting to become a client. My husband and I have actually talked about this. So, folks, I wasn't going to say this on air. I actually typed this to her before. Oh, by the way. But I'll actually put it out there because it isn't because I've tried every single thing. But if I'm not willing to try it, how can I expect anyone else? So if I'm figuring, I can do this, I can do it well. And I have seen. I will say this. I'm not. I kind of feel it's almost as bad as a proctologist about the enema thing, but at least I'm not singing Mooney River. But I've seen the differences that changing my diet to a more healthy, rounded, consistent, diet that involves every part of I've got meats and I've got my little bit of dairy, but I've got my whole vegetables and all this stuff is like very, very extremely healthy. No hormones, no antibiotics, and no chemical modifications and scientific playing with it. And I saw that it changed how I was feeling into a much better standpoint. So if that can do that, and that was done over 8 months, 9 months, and then see the difference of going back, I'm downright ready to say, okay, that's going to be a lifestyle change forever. Beca-
I love what I do because when people get back to running on all 8 cylinders, they shouldn't need me anymore. They shouldn't need supplements. You see,
mm-hmm.
you should have enough tools. By the time people are done working with you, they should have enough tools to know how to stay healthy for
Mm-hmm.
the rest of their lives. And two of the tools in their toolkit are going to be the near-infrared sauna and the coffee enemas. And by the time they're done with Sergeant Pam, I call myself Sergeant Pam because I'm so tough on my clients. But the diet is, I can help with the minutia. Some people have little questions they need clarified with regards to the diet, but if people watch these free videos online with Sally Fallon teaching the principles of Dr. Weston A. Price, and I say study those videos, you're going to have a really good grasp of the fundamental principles of a healthy diet, number one. And number two, if you study those videos, you're going to be able to protect yourself and your loved ones from this very dangerous nutritional misinformation that's circling around out there today.
And that right there, because I just reminded myself, folks, please remember this show is for educational and information purpose only. If you plan on making any changes in your life, please talk to your doctor. All right, there's your legal tidbit that gets to be spoken to cover my rear end. So, what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to try this. I will do it. I will commit the next 2 years to doing this, and I will share with everybody. I will share with you how this turns out, how it gets to look for me. And I may have some troubles talking my husband into this, but it's.
It's a fascinating journey. I work with families, I work with husbands, wives, children, I work with families, and it's really nice to have a support system to do this. I do another radio show with a girl who's on the program, and she reports every week the changes that are going on with her in terms of her mood, her sleep, her
Mm-hmm.
libido, and you name it. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and she's just doing it because she understands the power of the biochemistry. But she's about 40 years old, but she has done so many things out there already, and they haven't worked, and so she was frustrated. So when she was ready for Sergeant Pam, she completely surrendered because she says everything else I'm trying isn't working.
There you go. And I'm not sure, Sergeant Pam, that I'll be a very good soldier on that one. But I promise that I will I will commit to do it. And if I have troubles with it, I promise to talk to you about it.
Well, that's how I do it. I'm a coach, right? So when people are on the program, if they run into a glitch, they just they're okay. Because when the metals start coming out, we have to expect any potential side effects from the metals
Mm-hmm.
coming out. I also work with people who are coming off of working with their doctors, by the way. You must work with your medical doctor on this. But I have clients who are trying to work with their doctors to come off their medication, and they are working closely with their doctor, but they also, must have a lot of support at home to
Yes.
monitor and make sure that they can stay as stable as possible as these metals are coming out.
Yeah. Definitely. I truly believe very strongly that, everyone deserves to be informed and about their bodies as much as possible. And sometimes we don't have all the answers, and that's why we have experts out there. And having those experts provide those answers, all CEOs of lots of different companies do not know every single piece of information about their company, most of them. Which is why they have wonderful individuals that work for them and say, no, this is how it works, and da 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 da, to answer the questions when they have them. So they have their panel of experts. You have a panel of experts at your disposal in your doctors, your psychological, your mental health professionals, your nutritionists. Add that nutritionist in there, folks. Add them in. If you haven't been listening to this whole entire this whole series on this so far, you really deserve to go back and see why it's so important to add that nutritionist into your panel of experts. It will save you a lot of time and most likely a lot of money. Would you still say that's accurate?
Well, it depends because a lot of nutritionists are promoting a low-fat diet, which will be very
Touche.
counterproductive in terms of improving your mood. So make sure if you are going to anybody who works in the field of nutrition, make sure that they're very, very aware of the Weston A. Price principles, nutritional principles, because those are the principles that are really fundamental or very core in terms of keeping you on track nutritionally. We have to realize that understanding, getting people over the fear of animal fat cholesterol is a very difficult hurdle to overcome because over 90% of the population still believes that animal fat and dietary cholesterol join the dark side. And this is a slow process to get people over these phobias, but it is happening because people are scratching their head going, I'm listening to the USDA food guide, I'm following my dietitian, I'm following my nutritionist, and I feel like crap, I am really sick. They don't understand. And I think the first revelation people have to understand if they have a mood issue or any health problem is that it's not normal, that you do not have a personality flaw, you do not have some sort of defect. What you have is a biochemical imbalance, and it's largely, some of it is triggered by nutrition. Of course, there's going to be emotional trauma, there's going to be environmental stressors as well. So you have it coming at you potentially from three different stressors. But we should, as humans, we're supposed to be very resilient. We are supposed to be able to handle stress and survive stress. And unfortunately, what I see today is I see, very much mental instability in society, and I'm very concerned about our children because over 25% of our children today, are have some sort of mental disorder, and I see this situation as going from bad to worse, especially as they age.
And that right there is a whole new topic, because I'm tired. I get to tell you, I'm tired of seeing kids who should be running around having a blast, being crazy, going nuts outside and playing with their friends, sluggish, incapable of creating a complete sentence, wanting to know where the next video game is, and just sitting there at their desk going, I'm too tired to do it. That should not be happening in our young kids. If they're single digits or even lower, our kids who are young, they should be healthy and hearty and crazy, because that's part of childhood, running around like they've lost their mind. They're absorbing so much information. They're pumped by that, and they deserve to be healthy for that process. It affects them for the rest of their life. Their brain is still developing.
Yeah.
It's
You
anyway.
see all these diagnoses of autism and ADD and so on. I mean, these children are eating too many carbs in the diet. They're not eating enough animal fat to stabilize their nervous system. truth and the lie that's out there today. It's
Yeah.
very, very difficult. I'm the most jaded, cynical, skeptical person you're ever going to meet. I lost years and years of my life, listening to false promises. Oh, take this, it's going to help you feel better, Pam. And I understand that skepticism. I completely. I mean, my clients know. They're very protective of me. They know that if they have a question, I'll answer it because there's probably very little I haven't tried that's out there. And if I haven't tried it, one of my clients has tried it, and I know I have my ear to the ground. I'm always looking for something better. I'm always looking to see what more can be done to help people both physically and mentally.
Well, on that note, Pam, we're actually now out of time for this segment. But what we're going to do is next time we'll actually continue this next week. If we'll actually continue on this track because it's really important that people understand about the misinformation that's out there and know where they can go. Folks, I'm going to say thank you guys so much for listening. Our next segment is going to be Yuri Plesman as he explains about how his philosophy on dealing with nutrition. He is a nutritional psychologist, psychotherapist, and that is what he does for a living. And Pam, thank you so much because you have a lot of expertise, and I told you I'm going to do it. So we'll be talking on a regular basis. I know you know that. So, but oh. I will definitely do so. To everyone else, if you'd like to know more or to give your words and your own feedback on the show, because I'm sure this is a pretty hefty change in thought process, go ahead and reach us on the PTSD Retreat Facebook page, or you can go to our website, www.theptsdretreat.org, or you can send us an email at support@theptsdretreat.org. Again, thank you so much for listening. This has been Nicole Johnson-Starr and Pam Killeen, and this is the PTSD Retreat Radio Talk Show. Have a good evening, you guys, and I'll be right back.